Today we are taking a really intense journey into the extreme crises that forged Elon Musk's unique visionary leadership style. We're going to map out exactly how a history of near-fatal business disasters and, frankly, extreme risk-taking built the foundation for humanity's most ambitious project to date, the 2026 uncrewed Mars mission. If you want to understand how a company actually prepares to put 1 million people on another planet by 2050, well, you have to understand the fires that forged it. So let's dive right in. Growing up in South Africa, Musk faced an environment that was, by his own account, profoundly violent. He was a bookish kid, small for his age, and faced some really extreme physical bullying. In fact, his father recalled a time Musk was beaten so severely he literally didn't recognize his own son in the hospital. That daily threat of physical violence lasted until he was about 16, which is when he finally fought back and knocked out one of his attackers. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Forged in Adversity. So surviving a highly violent youth where you're repeatedly hospitalized, it doesn't just build character, it fundamentally rewires your entire tolerance for risk. When you have faced real physical peril on a daily basis, the fear of failing in business or, the fear of a rocket exploding, it just doesn't paralyze you in the same way. It built this absolute refusal to back down, which directly informs how he operates today. Academia actually has a name for this specific style: visionary leadership. And this isn't just about having big ideas, right? It's a model that pulls together design, technology, and business at a systems level. And here's the really crucial point. SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell observed that Musk's greatest challenge, and honestly his greatest weapon, is that he pushes his teams past seemingly impossible barriers by simply never accepting no as an answer. Which brings us to Section 2, the Visionary Leadership Model. Now, from the outside looking in, this strategy can seem totally erratic, chaotic even. But that childhood resilience translates directly into a highly calculated, long-term business strategy. Think about it. When he set out to disrupt the 100-year-old, massively entrenched auto industry, he didn't just wing it. He actually published a step-by-step master plan way back in 2006. So it looked to legacy automakers like this reckless disruption was, in reality, a highly organized, phased approach to changing exactly how the world consumes energy. Let's actually break down the exact 3 steps of that Tesla master plan because it's incredibly elegant. Step 1, build an expensive sports car at low volume. That was the original Roadster. Step 2, use that money to build a medium-priced car at medium volume, which gave us the Model S and X. And then Step 3, use that money to build an affordable car at high volume, the Model 3. It was a perfect system where the profits from those early, really high-end vehicles directly funded the incredibly expensive transition to a mass-market sustainable energy ecosystem. Moving right along to Section 3, SpaceX's do-or-die moments. To really get how this visionary leadership operates, we have to look at what happens when the master plan just completely falls apart, when millions of dollars and human lives are on the line, and the pressure is at its absolute peak. Just look at this heartbreaking timeline of the first 3 SpaceX Falcon 1 failures. March 2006, a tiny corroded $5 aluminum nut causes an engine fire just 33 seconds into flight. A year later, March 2007, residual thrust causes the rocket stages to collide after 5 minutes. Then, August 2008, a single line of code causes another stage separation failure. By this point, Musk's entirely self-funded $100 million investment was gone. They had totally run out of money, and they only had the hardware left for one final rocket. Okay, so they are transporting that final rocket from the U.S. to the Marshall Islands inside a military C-17 cargo plane. But the depressurization rate of the aircraft was way too aggressive. The rocket's fuel tank actually started to suffocate and crumple like an empty beer can mid-flight. The pilots turned to the SpaceX team and told them they had exactly 30 minutes of fuel left before they had to land, meaning they had to either open the cargo doors and drop this $200 million rocket into the ocean or figure out how to fix an actively imploding bomb in the dark. This right here is the ultimate example of extreme ownership. Engineer Zach Dunn literally crawled into the pitch-black, actively collapsing inner stage of the rocket with a single crescent wrench. While the metal was literally pinging and popping all around him, he manually twisted open a pressurization valve to let air in, which saved the entire rocket structure. And unbelievably, the team took that heavily damaged rocket, completely rebuilt it in just 1 week on the island, and successfully reached orbit. That specific flight won them a $1.6 billion NASA contract and essentially saved SpaceX overnight. Next up, Section 4, Tesla's Christmas Eve miracle. Because, incredibly, while SpaceX was surviving by the skin of its teeth on an island in the Pacific, Tesla was simultaneously facing complete and utter ruin back home during the 2008 global financial crisis. Credit markets had completely frozen up. The stakes were exact, and they were devastating. $20 million. That is exactly what Tesla needed to cover payroll and survive past Christmas Eve. Neither Tesla as a company, nor Musk personally, had the funds left. It was absolutely the darkest hour for the electric car dream. To raise that equity, they needed unanimous approval from their existing investors. But an intensely bitter boardroom conflict erupted. Vantage Point Capital's Alan Salzman wanted Tesla to pivot and just supply battery packs to legacy automakers like Chrysler. Musk vehemently refused. He called legacy automakers a sinking ship. It actually got so heated that Salzman attempted to oust Musk as CEO entirely, a move that was only narrowly blocked by board member Kimball Musk. So, with survival hanging by a literal thread and Salzman blocking the equity raise, Musk used this brilliant, incredibly high-pressure tactic. He restructured the entire financing plan to avoid issuing more equity, and instead structured it as debt. This completely bypassed the veto. The deal closed on a frantic Christmas Eve conference call, a moment that literally brought Musk to tears and saved Tesla from bankruptcy. And finally, Section 5, the 2026 Mars Dream. That extreme risk tolerance, the absolute refusal to accept no, and the resilience forged in that 2008 crucible, it didn't just save two companies. It created the exact operational framework that is now driving humanity's most ambitious project, colonizing Mars. Look at how SpaceX's Starship V3 stacks up against Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark II. While both have crucial roles in NASA's Artemis program to return humans to the moon, SpaceX's ultimate, explicitly stated goal remains Mars colonization utilizing a fully reusable vehicle. Blue Origin, on the other hand, is taking a more methodical approach focused on lunar infrastructure. SpaceX is moving fast, breaking things, and testing aggressively. And you can really see that aggressive testing in the data from the May 22, 2026 Starship V3 Flight 12. The upper stage succeeded brilliantly. It reached trajectory, it survived re-entry, and it deployed dummy payloads, even after losing an engine mid-flight. But notice the critical failure here. The Super Heavy booster was destroyed in a hard landing in the Gulf of Mexico. This proves that extreme, incredibly costly failures are not anomalies for SpaceX. They are a calculated core part of exactly how they learn and iterate. And they are actively iterating on the actual hardware needed to live on Mars right now. We're not just talking about rockets. SpaceX is building tangible engineering infrastructure. They're designing engines that run on methalox, which can actually be synthesized on Mars using local water ice and CO2. They're designing life support systems, planning solar and nuclear power grids, and even integrating Tesla's Optimus humanoid robot to act as the first sort of crew to set up camp. They are seriously planning to send 5 of these uncrewed starships carrying 10 tons of payload each to Mars. But here is the massive, looming hurdle: the 26-month launch window. Orbital mechanics are incredibly unforgiving. The optimal alignment between Earth and Mars only happens roughly every 26 months. Musk is targeting the November to December 2026 window. If they cannot achieve full orbital flight, test in-orbit refueling, and prep 5 massive rockets by that incredibly strict deadline, the dream gets pushed all the way back to 2029. The clock is ticking, and it's ticking loudly. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative question. We've seen how surviving a violent youth and the absolute financial brink of 2008 forged this unique, high-stakes leadership style. But can a model built on near failures, last-minute miracles, and extreme risk truly forge a self-sustaining city of 1 million people on Mars by 2050? The upcoming 2026 launch window is going to give us our first real answer. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep your eyes on the skies and keep learning.